just trying to find out what happened.
Okay, wasn't you just talking to her? Can she provide all them information to you?
Well, let me ask you this. I want you to talk to her. What if she told me that you beat the out of her and you jumped on top of her and started punching her in the face? Should I just go ahead and take that?
Okay, but don't you know?
It's your side of the story. Give your side.
All these prescriptions, but you want to be great. Being great is really pushing the envelope. You know what I'm saying?
Gervonta Tank Davis has finally broken his silence following his reported arrest and the abrupt cancellation of his much-hyped fight with Jake Paul. The boxer, already a magnet for headlines, now faces a serious civil lawsuit containing disturbing allegations of domestic violence. His legal team has remained noticeably quiet, offering only limited statements, while his coach has maintained that Davis is doing great and focusing on what's next. Meanwhile, Jake Paul's highly anticipated November 14th event now hangs in limbo as promoters and investigators dig deeper into the controversy.
This is a lightweight. So, by all means, if they make a few quid and nobody gets hurt, then great. But I certainly wouldn't be paying a penny to watch it. I think it's just absolutely ridiculous, farcical. Who wants to watch an exhibition? Gervonta Davis is in his prime years. Why is he wasting his time? Why is he having a rematch with the fella he got a draw with? Why is he not fighting? Why is he not going up a weight and fighting Lopez and Garcia's and them fighters? Why is he fighting Jake Paul in an exhibition? I get the money's great, but he's in the prime years. This is his best year. This is where he can become. Maybe you don't want to be an all-time great. Maybe you don't want to do all that stuff. Maybe just.
Court filings in Miami-Dade County reveal that Davis is being sued for battery, aggravated battery, false imprisonment, kidnapping, and intentional infliction of emotional distress, accusations that, if proven true, could have catastrophic consequences for both his reputation and his boxing career. For now, this remains a civil matter rather than a criminal case, but the implications are still huge. Industry insiders note that the complaint's details are severe enough to disrupt any ongoing promotional plans or sponsorships tied to Davis.
WBC lightweight world champion Gervonta Tank Davis was arrested earlier this week for closed fist slapping his daughter's mother. What's a closed fist slap? Is it like this? Bro, you can't be closed fist slapping women. You can't be slapping women at all. But don't you know your hand is like Thor's hammer? Bro, you can go to jail for even flicking somebody, man. Don't you got a fight coming up? Or are you trying to ruin your career?
At the moment, Davis hasn't issued a full public statement explaining his side of the story. His camp has kept things close to the chest, with only his trainer briefly assuring fans that Tank is fine and they're trying to understand what's happening. Behind the scenes, however, Jake Paul's promotion company, Most Valuable Promotions, MVP, released a measured statement confirming that they have launched an internal investigation into the lawsuit. MVP's official stance was clear: they condemn all forms of violence and will decide the fight's future after reviewing all facts. Though technically still on the calendar, the November 14th bout now appears doomed. According to boxing journalist Dame Mara, the event is about 80% likely cancelled. Initially scheduled for Atlanta's State Farm Arena, the fight was later moved to Miami, promising a collision of two modern icons, the old-school boxing prodigy and the viral social media powerhouse.
When a fairly novice Jake Paul made a wish list of future opponents, and right in the middle of that list was Gervonta Tank Davis. Many laughed at the time, and some still can't believe we're here. But these two young men are the face of boxing for Gen Z and Gen Alpha. They are the two biggest boxers in America, and they are putting it all on the line. One has the speed, the skill, the accuracy, and the one-punch knockout power. The other has the size, the force, and the unbreakable confidence to make this must-see Netflix. The size difference is...
The matchup carried layers of intrigue. Davis, a lightweight champion accustomed to fighting at 135 to 140 pounds, was set to move up drastically to face Jake Paul, who walks around near cruiserweight. The agreed rules listed a 195-pound upper limit and 12-ounce gloves, prompting Davis to question the fairness of the setup. The contrast between their sizes, the unconventional rules, and the crossover appeal promised a viral spectacle that could have rivaled any major fight this year.
want to watch is Tank Davis versus Jake Paul. I want Tank Davis to knock his block off. I'm sick of the Paul brothers, both of them. I can't stand either one of them. And I know I'll get pounded with emails. He's just jealous. No, I'm not jealous of them. I could care less how much money they make. I don't like their attitude. I don't like the way they conduct themselves. I don't like the way they think.
Among boxing fans, frustration toward Davis has been building. Many accuse him of chasing celebrity fights for money instead of defending his legacy against elite opponents like Shakur Stevenson or Teofimo Lopez. Critics argue that this decision, like many in modern boxing, reflects the industry's growing prioritization of paydays over prestige. The Jake Paul matchup, they claim, was less about testing skill and more about cashing in on global attention.
Never fight no Shakur Stevenson, no Keyshawn Davis, no Teofimo Lopez, no, none of them dudes. You know what I'm talking about? We gotta think and look at Tank Davis's whole career. He done made some bread, but at the end of the day, all that bread that he made, when it's all said and done, he ain't gonna get no respect from his peers, because we gonna look down his resume and we gonna be like, he was trash, he was some trash, he was some trash, he was alright, but he was never like that. He was okay, he was some trash, he was some trash, he ain't.
Before the Paul fight was even on the table, Davis was expected to face Lamont Roach in a rematch, a fight that would have settled unfinished business after their previous bout ended in a controversial draw. But when the Paul offer surfaced, bringing with it an estimated $50 million payout, Davis's team swiftly shifted direction. The allure of international exposure and record-breaking PPV numbers was impossible to ignore. Boxing commentator Stephen A. Smith has noted that this is the new era of boxing, where crossover events overshadow legacy-defining matches. Fighters chase fame, not just belts. For Davis, taking on Jake Paul wasn't just a financial move, it was a statement about power in the influencer age, where one viral moment can redefine an athlete's brand overnight.
Division where he's got killers all in his division, you know, Shakur, Haney, who's 147, you know, you look at Tio, for example, Keyshawn, and then you choose to fight someone like Paul. Surely that's a concern when you do look at it like that.
Yeah, but again, it's the world we're in. If you can get a huge amount of money to fight someone who's never boxed really before, you're going to do it. You know, Floyd Mayweather boxed Logan Paul with a huge weight disparity.
He was done by then. He was done. Like, this is an active world champion.
But it's the world we're in.
Yeah.
And that's the truth. You know, when it comes down to it. It's just like Conor McGregor fighting Floyd Mayweather. Two completely different sports. Was the biggest pay-per-view in recent times, wasn't it? Maybe if ever.
Those are like different comparisons though, if you think about it. Do you not like?
Yeah, but the sport's in a wild place, isn't it? That's just, like, I'm just like the reality of where we are, you know. And I can't really say much when we're talking about Jake Paul fighting Anthony Joshua at the same time.
Yeah.
You know.
Do you think Tank should get stripped of his title?
Yeah, I think anyone who, just in general, doesn't defend their title to do something else should get stripped, because it shouldn't hold the belts up. You know, in any, like, I think that should be the reality in anything. You know, if you're not going to defend your belts, or you're not defending, sometimes there's the rules, obviously, if you fight for a belt at a higher weight, you can retain the belt until there. But if you're not, don't have intention of defending the belts, you shouldn't hold the belts up. People should get the opportunity to fight for them.
What happened with the failed negotiations between AJ and Jake Paul?
I think anything's still possible. That was always discussed for next year. You know, this fight's November, early part of next year.
Former world champion Carl Froch, however, didn't mince words. He called the whole situation an absolute joke. According to Froch, Jake Paul's team was on the verge of sealing a deal to fight Anthony Joshua, but instead pivoted to the much smaller Davis, a decision Froch found both baffling and disappointing. He accused Paul of chasing shock value over genuine competition, saying this fight looks more like a sideshow than a sport.
But the fight against Jake Paul ain't going to happen anyway. It ain't going to happen. We can all believe it. Jake Paul.
Eddie Hearn said it's 99% done.
Because you know what? Jake Paul's done a great job in hustling Eddie. Yeah. He's going to get so either Eddie's in on it, or he's let this young man hustling. Yeah. And so the kids kidded the kidders.
Well, listen, we've had a chat, we've caught up, we'll have another chat as well in a...
I'm going to do some sunbathing, man.
Days, sunbathing, top up the town.
Yes, I do.
Well.
Blake is the number.
Let us know in the comments below who you think wins the fight and what Anthony Joshua should be doing next. Do you agree with us, do you disagree with us? Let us know in the comments below. This has been another episode of Froch on Fighting. Got the main man here, Johnny Nelson, aka Blickman. We'll see. He said it, not me. We'll see you on the next episode. Take care. Just here at Los Naranjos in Viva, España, and I found out that Gervonta Davis is now fighting Jake Paul. So Jake Paul was supposed to be fighting AJ. Eddie Hearn announced 99% done, which we just spoke about. What next for AJ? Potentially Jake Paul. But it now looks like that Jake Paul is fighting one of Anthony Joshua's legs. He's fighting Gervonta Davis, somebody who's a quarter of his size. I don't even know what's going on. Has Eddie Hearn been...
Nakisa Bidarian, co-founder of Most Valuable Promotions, defended the matchup. He dismissed concerns over Jake's size advantage, insisting that Davis's skill and ring IQ would more than compensate. Bidarian revealed that the Paul vs. Davis fight wasn't improvised, it had been in planning for years. Originally, MVP aimed for a blockbuster clash between Jake Paul and Canelo Alvarez, but when that fell apart, Davis became the natural target. According to Bidarian, Tank himself had been pushing for the fight since 2022, believing Jake's audience could take his brand global.
Are gonna happen November 14th.
Whatever weight they want, man, they're talking about it, and whatever it is, it's gonna be a definitive outcome. People can talk about pro, exhibition. We're gonna make sure this is as real as it's real.
Why was it, just out of curiosity, why is it not a professional bout and why is it an exhibition? Because I'm sure Jake would have taken the professional bout.
Nothing's been communicated as yet in terms of what it is, right? Similar to, if you remember with Paul Tyson, when we announced it, we didn't have the weight, we didn't have the rules, particularly in terms of the number of rounds, the minutes, the gloves. It's gonna be the same thing here.
Gotcha. Can you just offer us any insight as to how these negotiations went? The reason I ask is because I remember back in March, I was at Tank's fight, and after his fight in his press conference, he was asked, next opponent. He said, well, my next opponent might have been in my locker room tonight, and people asked him, was it Jake? He made reference, he made allusion to. Has this been an ongoing thing, and has it ever, been at a point where it wasn't gonna happen and came back, or was this always the plan?
It's always been the plan for Jake to fight Tank once Canelo didn't happen. And to Tank's credit, he's a real bad dude, and he's been calling out Jake for 3 years. And people, it's funny how now they're saying size matters, Jake is big, and for so long it's been Tank would kill Jake Paul.
Bidarian went on to explain that while Paul has the clear physical edge, taller, heavier, longer reach, Davis's experience gives him the true advantage. With over a decade of professional dominance, world titles, and a nearly flawless record filled with knockouts, Davis represents elite boxing craftsmanship. His speed, precision, and adaptability stand in stark contrast to Paul, who, despite his effort and training discipline, remains relatively inexperienced at the world-class level.
Obvious, but so is the skill and experience difference. One man has been doing this for 23 years, since the age of 7. The other picked up the sport 5 years ago and has virtually no amateur experience. So the size difference is what makes this plausible. The king of the jungle here is Tank Davis. He is the lion taking on the young elephant that is Jake Paul. The lion is looking at me like he's about to eat me. The lion is fast, he's fierce, and he's fatal when he strikes. But the young elephant is big, powerful, and hard to knock down. And come Friday, November 14th, the jungle will be set in tropical Miami, Florida, and the world will be watching.
Joe Rogan added a balanced take. He credited Jake Paul for reviving fan interest in boxing and bringing millions of young viewers into the sport. But Rogan questioned whether Jake is truly ready for a fighter of Davis's caliber. Up to now, Jake's most notable wins came against retired MMA fighters or older boxers past their prime. Davis, meanwhile, is in his peak, with devastating knockout power and technical brilliance. Rogan suggested that the upcoming fight, if it even happens, could be Jake's first real test in a ring where followers and fame offer no protection from a clean punch.
Fights, like, what if Jake Paul knocks one of them out? Like, what if you get a guy that, hasn't been tested and maybe has some promise and maybe gets wrapped up in the hype and maybe gets a little nervous, and this is his first chance at a big show, and Jake Paul can crack.
Yeah.
100%. That knockout of Tyron Woodley is legit as fuck. He can crack.
But Eddie's point in that interview, and I think the point that just about every boxing aficionado would say is that Tyrone.
Former world champion Paulie Malignaggi admitted the matchup stunned him. "I didn't see this coming," he said. To Malignaggi, this fight was one of the most unpredictable moves in modern boxing, a complete stylistic mismatch. Yet he also emphasized that Davis's career, built on world titles and highlight reel performances, speaks for itself. He urged fans not to let the controversy cloud what Davis has accomplished in the sport. "He's done more for boxing than most realize," Malignaggi said.
Because he's the bona fide world champion. I don't care if he's much smaller. I think Jake Paul has sort of plateaued as far as where his boxing is concerned. It's rather low level. He's big, he's physical, he's strong, he can hit. So there is that risk. Davis, at lightweight, you're in a moment where it's too physical for you. You can clinch. Against the heavyweight, where you clinch, you ain't getting out of that corner just clinching anymore if you run out of space. You know what I mean? So it's interesting. But Davis, listen, there's a lot of talking points that I'm sure we'll get into when this gets closer to the fight. Davis can still punch at lightweight. Can he drop a heavyweight? There's a lot to gain there, right? If Davis knocks
the answer is yes.
If Davis drops Jake on his ass, as much as Davis is the one with more to lose, it's still a highlight moment.
A visual that will stay forever.
Yeah, but if you get dropped, even if you're smaller, you're still a world champion in multiple weight classes. If you get dropped, what's the look? What's the feel? On the inside, as boxers, me and Chris Algieri, the champ, even you, Jimmy, you have fight experience, so we know that the risk is a big guy that big hits you. You're probably going down if you're a small guy. If he hits you clean, so we know the risk. But how does it look to the public eye who don't understand that? You know what I mean? The public. So there is a lot to lose, though. There's a bit to gain. I wouldn't necessarily have an issue with this had Davis's career arc been one that benefited boxing. Davis was manufactured and put into a position where he's supposed to benefit boxing, and I don't think he has. I think he's hurt boxing. So by giving him this reward, that's my problem. Why are we watching this? Why don't you?
Adding fuel to the debate, one of Jake Paul's former sparring partners offered a stark warning: Tank hits different. According to him, Jake has never felt power like Davis's. He argued that while Jake's confidence is understandable, having knocked out several former MMA stars, it won't save him when facing a true knockout artist. He predicted that the fight, if it happens, will expose the limit of Jake's risk-taking. Tank Davis, he said, is the breaking point.
And like every single time, people said that Jake would get finished or he would lose a fight. He obviously proved everybody wrong. But I genuinely believe this time, I think that, with Gervonta's boxing IQ and him having Jake come down a little bit of weight, I think Gervonta will beat him, honestly. I think Gervonta will hurt him. I think he'll just use IQ. He'll tire him out a little bit. And, I think he'll land. Gervonta knows how to touch his opponents. But it's interesting because when Floyd fought Logan, the size really, really made a big, impact. And you saw Floyd struggle, against a big, Ohio corn-fed, wrestling strong dude. And, I've sparred Jake and Logan before, and, they train hard.
You're picking Tank by knockout?
Look, I sparred them years.
UFC legend Daniel Cormier took a more philosophical approach. He acknowledged that Jake Paul's fight with Mike Tyson on Netflix revolutionized how combat sports are marketed. In Cormier's view, Paul isn't just a YouTuber turned boxer, he's a disruptor reshaping how audiences engage with the sport. Whether fans love or hate him, Cormier argued, Jake has forced boxing to evolve.
Big number. Jake Paul fought against Tommy Fury, big number. Jake Paul, who I believe, and I have told you guys this time and time again, he's much better than people give him credit for. One, Jake Paul is not an amateur fighter, like some try to say. Jake Paul has money, so Jake Paul is getting trained by the best boxing coaches that money can buy. He's full-time boxer. There are a lot of people that say he may do some other stuff. I don't know who he was going to fight that was saying that he was juiced up and he was ignoring it. Or was it Logan Paul? One of them. But at the end of the day, this kid's training to be the best fighter in the world, or the best as he can be, and he understands what losing would do to the perception of who he is in fighting. We were yelling so much about him fighting someone, fight somebody your size, fight somebody a real boxer. Stop fighting MMA guys. There were so many things that people were mad about in regards to his level of competition and the people he was competing against. Well, today we learned that Jake Paul has his next opponent. His next opponent is by far the most credentialed guy.
Now, with lawsuits, controversy, and uncertainty clouding the event, fans are left to wonder, is the Jake Paul vs. Gervonta Davis fight collapsing because of low demand, or is this all part of a calculated business strategy? Whatever the answer, one thing's for sure, the world is watching closely, and the next few days could decide the future of both fighters' legacies.